Hey friends, this is Ashley Ellenboss with Sky House Herb School and Apothecary. Today we'll be talking about spring detox strategies. Now, I want to say one thing. When I talk about detoxification, I'm not talking about that old sort of puritanical model of your body is dirty and filthy and we must cleanse it so that you can be a pure, clean person. When I say detoxification, what I'm really talking about is increasing our body's own capacity to make the transition from a traditionally colder and damper season like winter into a warmer and more airy season like spring. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to enhance our own body's ability to make that shift. Here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to talk about 3 different strategies and herbs and some foods that can help your body make this transition and make this leap. So let's dive in. The 3 strategies that we'll cover today, the first one is stoking the metabolic fire. The second one is supporting liver function, which will help break down fats. We'll talk a little bit more about this. And the third one is to increase the movement of fluids in your body. That's going to happen through hydration and also moving the lymph fluids. If we can do all 3 of these starting around, I would say, late winter, early spring, we'll really be setting ourselves up for springtime success. Let's dive into number 1. Stoking the metabolic fire. What I mean by this is that if you think about your body as having a little tiny campfire inside of it, and in order to keep that fire burning, we have to apply kindling. We have to then make larger logs. And also importantly, we have to add oxygen or fan the flames so that the fire can expand and disperse. In our bodies, we have to do the same thing. Often in the winter time, our metabolic fires have become a little slower. You can think about having some really dense logs, like at the end of a campfire, you have the logs that are, the oldest, biggest logs that are glowing ambers, but there's not a lot of spark. There's not a lot of spreading of warmth. It's just sort of a consolidated heat source. And that's important. In the wintertime, we've got a cold environment. We're often eating heavier, more fat, more rich foods. This is just very typical of the wintertime, both ancestrally, what our ancestors would eat around this time, usually a lot of preserved foods, smoked foods. Think about smoked and preserved meats, salted meats, things that could stay, preserved over long periods of time. Also canned fruits, canned vegetables, things with lots of salt, lots of vinegar, again, heavier and denser. Not a lot of fresh food. Our ancestors just didn't have access to greenhouses and to fresh foraged greens and things like that. So traditionally, the fire goes low. We have heavier foods, which keep the fire stable, but not necessarily bright. As we move into spring, what we want to start doing is adding some fresh fodder or some fresh kindling to that fire to start to help it expand. Because what the metabolic fire will do is 2 things. It will purify the body from accumulated toxins and heavy foods. Again, your body's not toxic. You are not toxic. And what will happen often is that if we've been eating heavier, more fat-laden foods, our body it's just usually we have a little bit of extra weight, right? And we might have a little bit of extra, maybe sugars or things that we've accumulated and held on to. So we want to start to move that. We want to start to burn that. We want to start to activate our own fire so that our bodies can move it out. It's just natural. It's just what our bodies want to do. And again, there's nothing wrong with having done that in the winter. It's just now we're entering a different time of what our body wants us to do. So we're just trying to listen. What does our body need to help us move into the next season? Stoking the metabolic fire will help this whole metabolic process. And here's how you're going to do it. So first, you're going to start by increasing warming foods and spices. You might think, well, wait a minute. I thought I was supposed to eat soups during the winter. Well, you still want to eat warm foods, just a little lighter. So think of more soups and start adding greens into it. Add more fiber. Think about how can I add more fiber to my diet? So that's going to be more cooked vegetables, more cooked greens, soups with cooked greens and some starches in there that are high in fiber. Try to do that and increase that warm, moist things to help your body keep and maintain that heat, get the fiber that will bind fat, and we're going to get some help using liver herbs to help cleanse that through the colon. We also need to stoke the metabolic fire with spices. So think about cayenne, curries, Tabasco sauce, whatever your favorite hot sauce is, which sriracha, you want to start adding those to your foods. Maybe you've been doing that all winter, but especially in this transition time, get the fires going, start stoking the fire by adding those spicy foods. Also, vinegars are really nice to add. I've been making pickled onions. Oh my gosh, they're so good. So thank you, Jason and Holly, my friends, for introducing them to me. It's super easy. Maybe I'll do a video. Let me know if you want me to do a quick video on how to make pickled red onions. I've been making them now, I guess, for the last month, and both me and my daughters go through them like crazy. Adam, not so much, but but we love them. And vinegar is a great way to also increase the digestive heat and digestive capacity. Now, in terms of herbs, I would say probably the easiest thing you can start doing is drinking ginger tea or adding ginger to your foods. Ginger is such a wonderful herb slash spice, so easy to find. And what I love about it is that it stokes the internal digestive heat, but it's also a diffuser of heat. So it's a circulatory stimulant. It's going to move blood to the edges of your body, which makes it really good for cold hands and feet and peripheral neuropathy and Raynaud's syndrome and a bunch of other issues, diabetic neuropathy as well, where if you have a decrease of blood flow to the extremities, or if you get a cold nose or cold lips, ginger is it's so simple. It's so easy. Just take 3 slices of ginger, of fresh ginger, add it to some boiling water and just simmer it, maybe for 5 minutes. Turn off the heat, let it sit for 15 minutes, and then sip on that. You can add a little honey if it's too spicy for you. Excellent. Just so simple and such a great way to increase heat and move heat, disperse heat throughout the body. Another herb that I really like, it's a little harder to find, is prickly ash. I hope this isn't backwards for you guys. Prickly ash is a root. The Latin name is I always get this one wrong. Xanthoxium claviherculus is the Latin name of prickly ash. And this one I bought through Galen's Way, but I know that you can find it in with other herb suppliers. I love prickly ash, especially for the cold hands and feet. It's much like ginger, but it's kind of like ginger times 2. So if you really want to stoke your circulatory action and activity, you can use it. It's also a great activator for other herbs. So if you're taking, let's say we're going to talk about the liver next. If you're taking liver herbs and you add a little bit of prickly ash to it, it just accelerates it. Think about it as an herbal accelerator because it just moves that whatever herbs it's with to the rest of the body. So it just moves it and shakes it and it really does help. So you can try that. It's also a little bit acrid, which is nice because it helps with stress and tension. It'll kind of help give you that, like shake off some tension by triggering that acrid kind of I want to vomit reflex is honestly what it is. But that's actually a really good thing that a lot of our herbs do to help us shake off tension from the body. So that's number 1. Number 1 is stoke the metabolic fire whatever way you can. Oh, and then another great way is exercise, saunas, steam rooms, hot baths, whatever you can do to heat the body also from the outside in is a great way to get your metabolic fire moving. So try that. Maybe it's just you start with walking 10 minutes every day. Maybe you start with a hot bath 3 days a week, right? I also really love for circulatory stimulation is doing dry brushing. So if you can buy one of those soft dry brushes or even a washcloth if you don't have one, and just do little circles all the way from the edges of your body towards your heart. And you do that starting with your arms, then you go from your feet up your legs all the way to your chest. And that helps to move lymph, stimulates circulation. It's really good for brushing off the dry, dead skin from the winter. That can be a really great thing to do before you take a steam or a bath or a sauna. Okay, number 2 is the liver. Let's support the liver this time of year. And I don't mean by cleansing the liver because this is a big misnomer. People think we need to cleanse the liver, but you don't. The liver is the cleanser. So you can support the liver in cleansing the body, but you don't need to cleanse the cleanser. right? You don't need to cleanse the cleansing organ. It's just doesn't work that way. When we stoke the liver, it helps to regenerate and cleanse itself. And I just think that's an important distinction because again, the liver's not dirty, but you can give it some love, right? And one thing that is an easy way to remember something that the liver loves is the liver loves lemons. LLL. The liver loves lemon. So if you take a little bit of lemon and squeeze it in warm water in the morning, and you could add a little dash of cayenne or a little dash of ginger powder, that's going to kickstart your circulatory system and it's going to kickstart the liver. Now, the liver is important because not only does it help us to filter and break down toxins, it also helps us to break down hormones. And so in our culture, or I should not culture, in our society, in our world, there are a lot of xenoestrogens and estrogens that come from plastics and from other sources in the environment. So our liver has to do the job of breaking those down as well. And we can support the liver in doing that by giving it herbs and foods that it loves. It's going to help them. And we don't want excess estrogens in our body because it can cause all sorts of issues, both in men and women and children, especially. So liver support is really good for that, especially this time of year. The liver is also responsible for breaking down fats. It produces a substance called bile that's then stored in the gallbladder. And bile is an emulsifier. So if you think about a really greasy dish that's in your sink, if you add dish soap, the soap acts as an emulsifier and breaks up the grease so that you can wash it off. And that's what bile does in the body. It breaks down the fats into water-soluble particles so then they can be washed and cleaned out. And so when we support the liver and we support the liver's production of bile, that helps our body to break down fats. And a lot of, again, I'm saying toxins, and these are just basically things that don't belong, is what you could think of as little friends that have like gotten stuck in your body and you're like, nope, you know what, I don't actually need you. There's nothing that you're doing that's helpful. Let's just help you out, buddy. Right? Adios, amigos. There you go. And so when we use liver supporting herbs, all of that happens a lot easier so that we don't have buildup. Because when we have buildup of people in our lives that are not healthy for us, or things in our body that aren't healthy for us, clothes in our closet that just are not flattering for us, right? It just clutters things. And so we want to think about spring cleaning from the inside, from the outside. And when we do this work of just gently removing excess stuff in our body, overall, we'll just feel better and everything will start to run more smoothly. And our liver can do other jobs like actually conjugating certain hormones. Our liver actually versions of certain hormones in our body. So let's love on the liver by using herbs that are sour and bitter. And if you want to start adding in a little bit of fresh greens, like I wouldn't start doing salads. Like March and April are not salad season yet. Our digestive fire needs a little more stoking before we can start adding raw food. So don't do any raw, in my opinion, again, this is just what I've seen in my clinical practice and from all that I've studied from Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, is that really during this transition time, you can do some bitter greens, but make sure the majority of your food is warm. Okay. And you can cook arugula, things like mustard greens, and cook them down. That's a great way to get greens so that you're not putting too many cold foods on that fire that just isn't quite ready for that yet. Other things I mentioned, sour things are good for the liver. And then the herbs that I would recommend, some of my favorites are Dandelion Root. It's so easy to find. It's super inexpensive. You can harvest it from your backyard, given that your backyard is, not that the soil is in pretty decent shape, right? You don't want to harvest it from public parks where they might spray or there's dogs walking, right? But if you can find your own diggers, those like stick diggers, and you can pull it up and you can actually just boil it fresh. Or if you're like, I don't know about all that, then just buy it dried. And dried chopped dandelion root you can find at most herb stores, most local co-ops. And the way that I recommend brewing that, I'm going to tell you about it when I talk about nettles for the next one, but it is as an overnight infusion, or you can add it into your ginger that you cook on the stove. So you can add about a teaspoon of dandelion root to your 3 slices of ginger, simmer that for 5 minutes, let it sit for 15, great drink. And dandelion root tastes really good. It's a little bit bitter, but it's mostly sweet. So that's a little bit of a treat to look forward to. You can also use a bitters blend. There's a lot of great companies. I'll include a link in the description. I really love Herbalist and Alchemists, which is founded by David Winston. They just have really high quality products that are available to the public. And yeah, I use their Old World bitters blend. And I think they have another one. I'll have to look into, I forget the name of it, but I'll include two links so that you can find those. And if you're in the UK or abroad, you can find your own bitters blend. You can also make your own bitters blend. There's lots of great recipes out there. I might even have one on my YouTube channel from years back. And then the last one for the liver that might be helpful is milk thistle capsules. Milk thistle is a wonderful herb that helps to support the liver. It actually can help the liver reproduce its own cells. So it's one of the few herbs that can help in liver regeneration. I've used it with clients with hepatitis C, and all of their liver enzyme numbers have come back to normal just after 3 to 4 months of using it. So it's pretty profound in how it helps to restore function to the liver. All right, number 3, increase hydration. That's a great simple thing we can do this time of year. And it can be just as simple as water. I recommend to all of my clients, find a water bottle with a straw. Studies show that people that have straws on their water bottle are more likely to drink it and drink more. I don't know, there's something about that mechanism of sucking rather than sipping that promotes more drinking. So find something with a straw. Ideally not plastic. Metal's great, stainless steel, things like that. But plastic will do just fine. And but BPA-free plastic if you can, right? So water, simple. Just start drinking more of it. Add a little bit of lemon, right? Why not? That's good for your liver. You can feed 2 birds with 1 hand, as I like to say, if you do it that way. Other ways of getting in more fluid is through drinking an overnight infusion. And I'm going to give you 3 herbs that are my favorite gentle cleansing herbs for springtime that can again kickstart your metabolic function. These herbs are also really high in nutrients, so they're going to give your body fuel, not only for cellular reproduction, tissue repair, but also just some of the vitamins we need for cognitive strength, right? So this is the one that I made for myself last night. I like to make my overnight infusions the night before. I let them sit overnight on the counter, and then I strain them and drink them throughout the day. What I'm drinking right now is I'm drinking Nettles, lemon balm, and dandelion root all together. And I kind of vary it up, but right now my body needs lemon balm. We're also drinking that for the Roots and Spheres course, which I'm teaching this year. And where we combine astrology, we look at the astrological transits, and then I choose an herb that matches that will be kind of most beneficial for that transit. So right now, if you're listening to this, this is I'm finding this to be a great blend. So nettles, it's probably about a 1/4 cup of nettles, about 2 tablespoons of lemon balm, and 2 tablespoons of dandelion root. Maybe if I can remember, I'll put that in the description. And all you do is you add those herbs to the bottom of your mason jar, you boil water, you fill it to the top, cap it, and let it sit overnight. And then I have a strainer that sits on another mason jar of the same side. That's sort of this narrow mouthed jar. And I just pour it into another one. So I just have 2 that I have out all the time. And I'm just, straining, drinking, rinsing, and repeat. And look at how much water, I'm getting 800 milliliters or 3.5 cups of water. That's really good for hydration. I'm getting all of these minerals that are water extractable, calcium, magnesium, manganese, high in iron. Nettles is really high in iron. I'm also getting these prebiotics for my gut flora from the dandelion root. It has inulin, which is good for feeding the good gut bacteria in your stomach and in your intestines. And then it also has the lemon balm, which is a relaxing nervine for the nervous system. And it's also an antiviral, which is always good. So what you would do is you would just drink a quart of this every day. This is a quart-sized mason jar. So those would be, but the 3 herbs, nettles, dandelion root, and then burdock root is another really great alternative. And these are all, again, gently cleansing and nutritive and supporting. I'm going to be doing a full talk on nettles for the month of April. It will be my April herb of the month. So if you want to look back through the library, we've done an herb of the month for February, March. Next one will be April. I also have a talk I'll include in the link called Nettles as Mother Medicine. And nettles, oh my gosh, it's such an incredible herb, but it's very mothering and nurturing. And as our little fledgling bodies come through winter into spring, you might need a little bit of extra mothering support to usher you into this new season. And nettles will give that to you. It's kind of like a mixture between the stern mother with a broom who sort of like is like, get going, make changes, clean your closet. And then also the nurturing mother that says, let me give you everything you need. And I'm going to hold you and support you and help you let go of what you don't need. So nettles is both warming, comforting, but also gently nudging to help shift and move things out that need to go. So just an incredible herb. Listen to that talk if you want to learn more. And I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be back next week with some more talks. I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you do for spring? We talked, I'm going to just repeat the 3 things that we talked about here, and then I would love to hear what you do. So my first one is start by stoking the metabolic fire, increase heat, right? Increase spicy foods, warm foods. The second one is support your liver function, and that can be done through bitters, dandelion root. And then the third one was increase hydration and move lymph by using your overnight infusions. So those are my top 3. But what are yours? What do you do in the spring to help your whole body get ready? And, I will say one thing. You might not agree, and that's okay, but I don't believe in doing spring cleanses until after May. So if you're going to be doing like a spring, like the master cleanse or a juice fast, which, I get it. Like sometimes it really does help reset the whole system, but don't do it in March and don't do it in April because unless you live in Florida, and I'll tell you why, because that is so stripping for the body. And in these transition times where the weather is going up and down, chances are you'll get sick. And I'll tell you from experience and from leading these cleanses at our yoga studio, I started doing them around the spring equinox, around March 21st, and people would just get sick. And I was like, this is not, I know it's spring officially, but it's really not actually a good time to do that. Right now, we want to be boosting the system through these kinds of methods. And then once we are in full warmth, after Mother's Day is ideal. That's when we put our little seedlings in the ground, right? Like after the last frost, that's when you can then do a cleanse if you want to. And I don't even think that they're necessary for most people, but that would be the time to do it. So I just want to throw that out there because you might be thinking, I thought this was going to be about a master cleanse. And no, maybe I'll do a talk on that later. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see y'all soon. Cheers.